here, and I'm back with another video for W+9. Today I'm going to be using Friends for All Seasons Spring, Party Animal, and the Sunshine's Layers die. In the way back there you saw the Unforgettable stamp set that was laying there. My original intention was to use that. It did not work out that way. So here, this is just copy paper and had his dry Tombow Mono multi-glue on the back so I can use it as a mask. And I used the rounded rectangle that's included in the Sunshine's Layers die to cut out the center of this, and then I'm just tracing it with a pencil so I can figure out what my placement is going to be. The in the Friends for All Seasons set Spring Edition, there's a little sentiment in there that says "Thanks for hanging in there." And when I read it, I immediately thought of this cute little panda being carried away by some balloons. So I stamped the large balloon from the Party Animal set, and I also stamped it on a full sticky note so I could use it as a mask. Like I said, my original intention was to do a bunch of balloons, but I haven't used this set in so long, I legitimately forgot how large this balloon is, and it's totally enough to carry a whole card. So I didn't need to complicate it with a bunch of images. Not that that wouldn't be cute, I'm sure it would be, but I liked the idea of it just being really simple images and a fun kind of background. So that's the approach I took. Stamped my panda down, masked him off. These clouds are included in the Sunshine's Layers dies as well, and so I cut those through the full sticky back post-its, and I'm using those as masks, just kind of putting them wherever I thought that they would be cute. And then once I get all the masks in place, I'm going to go ahead and put the frame, the sticky back frame, back around this. I knew that I wanted it to be framed and that I wanted that part to be set off. My original intention was, and I can't get this thing to sit correctly, my original intention was to just do some distress ink in the foreground and in the background and do my shading that way. I ended up doing the Copics because I have no self-control and I have to add it to everything. But ultimately at the end I'm pleased with how it looks, so I guess that's what really counts. So this is Salty Ocean. I'm just putting it on with my mini blending tool, and this little cloud was giving me some trouble, so I just grabbed some Scotch tape, taped it to the other mask, and moved on with the rest of the card. Sometimes you just have to know when you're beat, and I was beat. I couldn't get that mask to stay down, and that was probably my fault. I don't know if die cutting them, I laid them on another piece of paper when I die cut them. I don't know if that was necessarily a good idea. I probably should have just die cut them right, just the post-it note, just stuck it right to the whatever that thing's called. I don't even know, the clear thing, the cutting plate. Took a minute. Got there though. Wow. So anyway, we're moving on to Blueprint Sketch, and again, I'm just putting this in various places. I just wanted to create some depth in the background. I thought that it would be a cute way to, I guess, set off those simple images. I kept the positive of the die, and that also has Tombow Mono multi-glue on it, and I put that down so that I could do the background, because like I told you originally, I had just intended on doing that. Changed my mind. So I'm pulling out the clouds that are sticking out. I'm leaving the panda mask and the balloon mask in place, but the clouds that were sticking out past the border, I just pulled those out. I didn't have any more use for those at this point. So I'm starting with Salty Ocean. I'm going around the edges. I'm not taking it out all the way to the edges, but I'm leaving kind of like a blended white at the very edge of it. And I'm just putting down, I guess, as much color as I liked. I wanted it to blend nicely out into the white, so I did that. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Blueprint Sketch. And for this, I'm just putting it barely over the border. So this is not far out into the card. There's still plenty of Salty Ocean. This is just to create a border. So now you can see there's the border. I knew that I wanted to add some more clouds. Originally, my game plan, this is the post-it note negative. So I'm going to put this down. This is where I die cut them from. And then I'm going to cover up those other two clouds because I have a really bad habit of not being able to keep my distressing just in the negative that I want to use. So anyway, my intention at first was just to put in a couple of light clouds in the background and keep it in that tight little border area. I didn't like the way it looked. I thought that they should be more bold. I thought that would give me more depth. So I just put the mask back in place and did it again. And I liked it much better the second time. So I was much more heavy-handed with the salty ocean and got a very clear blue cloud. And then I just moved it around, covering the other clouds each time as I worked so that I didn't have weird upside down clouds and spots that I didn't want. And once I was happy with the background, I had enough of them in place, I started removing my masks. So you can see here that there's a light blue sky that has some different tones in it, and then white clouds, and then the dark, well, I don't really want to call them darker salty ocean clouds. So there's a lot of depth going on here. Sometimes the white clouds are in front, sometimes they're in back. I'm going to go ahead and erase that pencil line that I started off with to begin with, and then I put the positive back in place so that I could outline it with a black EK Success journaling pen, or some people refer to them as writing pens. And so I just put this in place so I wouldn't have to freehand the frame. I'm going to be honest, I didn't love the way that the frame came out. It was kind of wobbly, and I thought, okay, well, I'll be all right with it. You know, once the card's done, it'll be good. But I have to be honest, I didn't love the way that it came out. So after the camera was off, I went back in with a T-square ruler and fixed it. I couldn't just leave it the way it was. So you saw me drawing the little balloon string there, and then we're going to move on to the Copic coloring. I'm using the cool grays to do the shading on the panda, and I just prefer to do my shading with my light source in the top right. That's just my preference. You do it wherever you want to do it. Or don't. I mean, you don't even need a light source. You can just shade it however you want. So I only used 2 of the grays on the panda. I wanted him to be white. But I am going to use all 3 of the grays, the C5, C3, and C1 on this background. So I'm just outlining the entire square and then adding shading to my images, the panda and the balloon, as if the light source was from the top right. So adding dark line all the way around the whole square because I want it to appear to be popped up. And then, but the shading for the images is just to the bottom left. I didn't want them to look flat since they are hanging over that square. So they needed some sort of shading. It would have looked weird if they had none. So after I got the C5 down, I went back in with the C3 and just kind of blended it out as I worked. I didn't add any more shadow to it. Just went right over what I already had there, and I'm going to do the same thing with the C1. I'm going to go right over what I already have down, and this is going to give that appearance that that square is a second layer and that those images are popped up. Moving on to the balloon, I wasn't sure color-wise where I was going to go with this until I saw the background, and then orange is a natural complement to blue. They're complementary colors, opposites on the color wheel, so that's how I decided I was going to go with the orange. I decided to use yellow as my base because it was going to be super bright, and I don't know, I felt like the sentiment, thanks for hanging in there, was like, I don't know, I guess a little sunnier, like a happier mood as far as, you know, thanks for being my friend and, you know, putting up with whatever I put you through. Like in my case, it's the poor people who put up with me making late videos. You know who you are. Anyway, so I did my shading like I normally do for my balloons. I left the outside edges white, and I'll fill them in with my lightest color, the Y, later on. And this is just something that helps them appear more round. I left too much of a highlight on the right hand side. That highlight is too large, I'm going to be honest. And so once I started coloring it, and really getting all, because I try not to be too judgy before I have all of the colors down, because you never know what it's going to look like until you put that final coat on. So once I had put the final coat on, I realized that A, that highlight was too big, I didn't like it, and B, my Y38 was not blending as well into my Y08 as I would have liked. So the fabulous thing about Copics is that you can layer them, and the more you saturate your paper, the more that they're going to blend. So I just kept working with the balloon until I liked where it ended up. And I also used some of those darker colors to kind of fill in some of that highlight. So it looked, I guess, a little more natural. And then again, I went over everything just one more time with the Y08, and I was much more pleased with the way that this looked. To accentuate that highlight, I'm going to go in with my white gel pen and just add that right on top of where the highlight is. And then I also added a small one over on the left-hand side. I forgot to film it, but I also filled in his little eyeballs. I did his little white dot eyeballs. And I outline all of my images. This is just something I prefer to do, and especially with him being black, I wanted him to be solid black. So I went ahead and took care of that with that same writing pen that I used for the frame. I outlined all of it, and then I'm on to the sentiment. So for my sentiments, my favorite ink. Why can't I think of the word ink? Like, that was elusive. Anyway, my favorite ink is the W+9. It is archival, it's waterproof, it's all of those things, and it stamps beautiful and crisp. I love that for sentiments. It's not Copic safe though, so sometimes, you know, I gotta mix and match, but I always stamp my sentiments in one of those, the archival one, because that's what I like. So I added clear Wink of Stella to the balloon, and then I called it a day. I was pretty happy with the way that it turned out and the layered background look. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!